and going. Hey everybody, welcome back to the latest episode of Kenny Gordon Cinema. I am back again with Chris Ingle, and we're here to talk about two trips to the land of Oz. Wizard, and your choice for this return. This is your baby. This pick this week, Wizard of Oz and Return to Oz. So Chris, why did you pick these?
So they're give or take approximately 50 years apart. And they're so different in tone and style that I really think that Wizard of Oz has such a nostalgia soft spot for everyone. A lot of people view Wizard of Oz as up there as one of the most perfect movies, period. So I think people can't look beyond that, and it's really hard to. Return to Oz, when it came out, was made to be a direct sequel to Wizard of Oz, but it was so different than what people were used to that it really got a bad rap. And I don't find it that way. I find this as a really neat take on more Oz books down the line. And I think there are a lot of elements in there which are really charming, and a lot of elements which harken back to 1939. So I know we usually talk about that in the end though, but this was considered rotten, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's rotten. I just think it's a different product than what we're used to, and we're looking at it through the lens of 39. When you look at it by itself, it's not so different than other films that came out during that time in the 80s.
Well, yeah, I'll agree with you there. Even right off the bat, we'll say it's like I loved this is the first time that I've seen this movie, and I really loved it. This would have been my jam growing up. Like this is like a scary kids movie. This is a scary fairy tale, and like that was my jam. So like I really like the creepiness to it and everything about it. It felt, because I watched when I rewatched The Wizard of Oz for this one, I watched the 4K UHD version of it, and I got lucky enough I have a 4K TV, so it's like full on resolution for it. And let me tell you, some of those makeups in the original Wizard of Oz are scary. Like it's really, really good, and it's really like it's almost unnerving. The Scarecrow in particular, like the texture they got on his face, it's pretty unnerving, and the fact that it scarred the actors basically, like. We can talk about like how the actors just in general were very mistreated on the original Wizard of Oz, just as basically like a rule.
Yeah, poor Margaret Hamilton.
Yeah, well she got burned and
Third degree burns,
and wearing toxic copper makeup and yeah.
But yeah, so, let's give the quick rundown. We all know Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. If you are watching this, I would bet
the most seen movie ever. That's from what I've read, it's the most seen movie ever. Pretty much everybody has seen this movie.
It's played everywhere on TV. It's beloved in homes. It's been on, beta. It's been on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. Probably was on so many other formats, and so it's timeless. It really is. And I won't doubt that. Despite the behind the scenes stories that some of them will get into, it is a timeless film. This is something that the Library of Congress has deemed relevant. It was one of the first 25 films that they ever registered. And so, it's absolutely relevant. Who doesn't know phrases from Wizard of Oz? I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. Or there's no place like home. Or pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. All of that.
It's all just popular lexicon now. It's all just stuff that like even if you hadn't seen The Wizard of Oz yet, like some of the younger generation, that like those sayings, because those sayings are just, they pop up in TV shows and movies just constantly, because that's just the way it's persisted in the culture.
So to humor those who maybe haven't seen it, I'll give you the 30-second version of what happens. Dorothy's a girl in Kansas. She has a dog. A tornado comes. It does do damage to her house. But to her mind, she lands in Oz. And we'll talk about the transition there. There's something really great. But she lands in Oz, is introduced to the Munchkins and Glinda the Witch, as well as the Wicked Witch of the West. She accidentally killed the Wicked Witch of the East and is set on a journey by Glinda wearing ruby slippers to go to the Emerald City to meet with the wizard who can help her get home. Along the way, she meets a scarecrow, a lively scarecrow, a tin man, and a cowardly lion. They become friends. They go to the Emerald City. The Wicked Witch of the West wants the shoes. The wizard says, okay, I'll send you home if you can kill the wizard or kill the witch.
Or get
If
her
you kill the
broom.
Wicked Witch.
It's get her
If you
broom,
get her broom.
and they're like, oh, but that means we'll have to kill her. And it's like, well, get her broom. It's like, I'm not telling you to kill her, but
so
you gotta kill her.
They go on a quest to the west. Dorothy gets captured by flying monkeys, and the rest have to go in and save her. They manage to get in. She, in escaping, accidentally wets the Wicked Witch. Wicked Witch melts. She gets the broom, goes back, finds out that the wizard is a fraud, but by magic and the shoes, she's able to go home anyway. That's your plot. That's it. That's the entire film in a nutshell. But there's so much more to this film to look at. So I want to get out of the way some of the technical aspects to this film, because some of these technical aspects are beautiful. So the film starts out in sepia tone. So it's kind of brownish. Some people say black and white, but
well, it's black and white. That is then dyed sepia tone is what it was. The shot black and white, and you dye it into a sepia tone for that. And then another thing behind this movie is that there's basically 4 directors that ran this movie. One of them being the director of Gone with the Wind. And and the fact that he only lost he was director for both of these movies for that year for Academy Awards, and he lost to himself for Gone with the Wind, which is pretty crazy. It's a pretty good resume.
Yeah, but one of the technical things I love is that once they transition from Kansas to Oz, the Munchkin land and the land of Oz. When she's inside her house, it's still sepia tone. The moment she opens the door, the colors that they have just all of a sudden appear. And it really becomes this metaphor for Dorothy. Dorothy is a kind of character. If you've ever been to Kansas, when she says, we're not in Kansas anymore, it didn't take an idiot to figure that out. There's nothing in Kansas. Trust me, I've been through it. So for her, though, she's been really restrained at home. You know, she's supposed to be this lovely young girl, and yet she's kind of a bit of a fighter, a little bit of a whiner at sometimes too.
Well, I mean, her dog is a literal menace. I mean, she's like, oh, it only bit the neighbor and chased the cat like a bunch of times. Like it's like, come on, Dorothy, your dog is kind of a menace. You got to keep that thing on a leash or something.
But yeah, when she lands, she comes outside, and just the bright colors. This was one of the first films to really successfully use that Technicolor technology that they had. It wasn't the first, but it exemplified
one of the biggest.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
And it's interesting
gorgeous.
Reading up on why they chose the dress that they did. Like it because of the one of the behind the scenes, they were allegedly plying Judy Garland with amphetamines and barbiturates to try and keep her weight down, because she was 17 at the time, playing what was supposed to be a prepubescent girl, which we get to in Return to Oz. It's supposed to be a sequel, but it's very clearly seems like we're going back in time because of the younger main character. But they picked the blue gingham dress because it gives, and looking at it again, this weird distorted effect to the dress, and they thought that would make her look thinner. And it's interesting to see what all the tricks old Hollywood did, plying her full of drugs and tobacco, and it's like, oh, you got to do this and do that to be thin and stuff like that. It's like, man.
Yeah, this was not an easy film to work on. The makeup, you talk about the makeup, and I include this in the technical aspects of it. The makeup of this film is absolutely fabulous, and the images of what you think of when you think of The Wizard of Oz come from this film. I'm a huge fan of the books. I've read the original books that Baum wrote. And the images that they describe in here kind of are there. Like the Yellow Brick Road is there, and the Emerald City to an extent is as you would imagine it. But the characters actually visually are different than in the book. In the book, the Wicked Witch, first of all, the Wicked Witch is hardly actually a thing in the book. She really isn't. And the look she has overall is very different from what we have. The image that we have now of what a witch is, with the tall black hat and the green nose, that's Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz did that for us. And that, again, this film is kind of this opus of pop culture goodness. It really is. Like, you look to something, Wizard of Oz encouraged it. And the makeup that they chose was very thick type makeup, but not so much that you on the camera would go, oh, it looks
one of the
like
earliest
the character.
one of the earliest applications of foam latex. Like it is something that is used pretty much like every day in every prop department nowadays. It's really easy to use foam latex stuff. Watch Face Off if you never have. They freaking do that in like 2 days, and they make shit ton of stuff. But like back then, it was so new and so basically caustic that tell you about it. It gave scars on the Scarecrow, and the original Tin Man had an allergic reaction to the original aluminum paint and had to be replaced.
Buddy Ebsen. I've seen the screen test of him dancing as the Tin Man.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Ebsen would have been beautiful as the Tin Man. Absolutely fabulous. But he had an allergic reaction to the silver in the silver powder that they used for the Tin Man, and it put him into the hospital, like serious ICU stuff. And so he was replaced by Ray Bolger.
Yeah, Ray Bolger.
Yeah, Ray Bolger. And that's another thing, is that the casting in this film is perfect.
Oh no, sorry, Jack Haley. Ray Bolger is the Scarecrow. Yeah,
I always flip the two.
Yeah.
Even Dorothy, when you think about it, even Judy Garland, she's perfect in this. She does. She has an innocence. Other than being a little bit older, she's got that innocence, that wide-eyed doe look that you need from Dorothy. You know, Tin Man seems clueless, but has a good heart. Not Tin Man, Flip. Again, Scarecrow.
Scarecrow's clueless, yeah, because he doesn't have a brain.
But has a good heart.
Yeah.
Tin Man has a good brain on him, but he's longing for more. And then Cowardly Lion, he's dying to be stronger, and yet he's cowardly. And but they're there. The traits that they show are amazing in each of these characters. I love it. Margaret Hamilton has a great just cackle. The Wicked Witch of the West is marked up there with Hannibal Lecter and Darth Vader as the most iconic villains in film history.
Well, they cut out a bunch of her stuff because apparently she was too scary. Like they said that she was too scary. And I was like, I can see that. Like that yeah, she scared me when I was young.
Well, to this day, I remember seeing The Wicked Witch when I was younger, and she's scary. She is very scary, and she's supposed to be that way, you know. And then that music that they have, the again, pop culture. I use that to describe my former mother-in-law. I'm glad my wife doesn't watch these. Anyway, no. The thing is, like, it all builds into that character, and everyone in this film is cast right. In fact, most of the adults are double cast, which is a tradition that we will see follow into Return to Oz. So Margaret Hamilton also plays Elmira Gulch, who is kind of the town busybody.
Well, she owns a lot of the town too, apparently.
She owns a lot of the town and the bank. And anyway, she wants Toto in the beginning, and she rides a bicycle, even to the point that when Dorothy's in the tornado, she sees outside Elmira riding her bicycle, and it transforms into the Wicked Witch. You know,
in a really cool. for 1939, a really great, like, that's a really great special effects scene. Like, a lot of the special effects in this movie, and even in Return to Oz when we get to it, I think really are great for the time.
Yep. The three farmhands on her branch or her farm are also the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and Lion. They are all the same. And then the wizard is also what is his name? Mr.
Marvel? Professor Marvel. Yeah, Professor Marvel.
I didn't write it down in my notes, his specific name, but she meets him early on
when she runs away.
Yeah, she's running away, and she's gonna hang with him and go with him, and he's totally cool with it. But then Dorothy sees a tornado.
He convinces her to go back. Like, rewatching this again, right? Like, watching it, he's like, "Oh no, you have an aunt at home, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, she's sick and she's worried, so you have to get back." So he's like, "You can come with me if you want, but you know, it'd be better if you go home," right? So he's like, he is sending her home, and it's like, I thought that was.
And then the weather starts to pick up. So most of the adults are double cast in this film, And then we meet Glinda the Good, who comes in riding in a bubble.
I hate Glinda so much.
I know, she's irritating. Big old poofy dress.
It's like, oh, here, just take these shoes that this witch wants and just go, walk across Oz, because you can do it. It's like, what the fuck?
She's an amalgamation of two characters in the original book, so she's kind of a unique creation to the Wizard of Oz in her own right. Yeah, so casting works in here. The technical parts, or you know what, real quick on casting too, the Munchkins. It's a little thing, pardon the terrible pun.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Chris.
I didn't do it on purpose, it's the alcohol. No, the entire town of Munchkins are all little people actors.
Are they all little people? I thought there was children in there too. It looked like there was children.
They are little people children too.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I asked.
Okay.
I was curious about that. But yeah, they are all little people. And there are stories offset where the Munchkins were often drunk and there were problems with the Munchkins and they had a Munchkin wrangler that had to keep them together. But when you get them on, let's face it, when you get them in the Munchkin scene, it's just so engrossing, and they're all having fun and enjoying it, and are grateful to Dorothy for killing the Witch of the East, and so it's all there.
So the Lollipop Guild, they're the mafia of the Munchkins, right? Like that's what they are. I mean, like the way they like saunter up and they're like shibbying, like they're like 1940s gangsters. We represent. It's like, yeah, you're mobsters. You're the mobsters of the Munchkin land.
That's beautiful. I'm not gonna skirt around this because let's face it, I think
they're hatched in eggs. I thought this was weird. So Munchkins are hatched in eggs apparently, or they sleep in broken open eggs. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, that's a little weird. The best part of this film is possibly its most timeless, and that's the music. The music by far is the thing that you will always remember because I
forgot how much of it there was.
How many of us have been sang to sleep by Somewhere Over the Rainbow? Somewhere Over the Rainbow,
and it was almost cut.
I know, yeah. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is noted as, again, there's a lot of best from this movie. Somewhere Over the Rainbow is listed as the best movie song of all time.
That's the AFI one, right? AFI Top 100.
None, yeah, bar none, across the board. It's Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I do a karaoke rendition. I love this song. This song is just hopeful and beautiful, and Judy Garland uses every ounce of vocal talent she has to make you feel the loneliness and the hopefulness that she has. And it happens right towards the beginning of the film.
Yeah, it's right the first 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. It's right away. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just a beautiful song. And then all the rest of the songs, I still remember them well too.
And they use the Over the Rainbow refrain in parts throughout the movie. Constantly, when you're in Oz, they'll play like a slower version of it underneath the main themes, and I really like the callbacks to it. But yeah, all the rest of the music too. Yeah, where the movie starts to shine for me is when she starts meeting the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion, and just their songs. I love the fact that each of them have the same it's the same cadence, or how, I don't know how the proper song terminology for it, right? But
if I only had
something, right? But they have their own special version of it in bits and pieces when they're introduced, and it's really, I don't know, like we mentioned earlier, the makeup, while horrible, is great, is amazing in it, and I would love to be oiled with chocolate syrup. Because it was chocolate syrup.
It was, yeah. The commentary too, in just that idea, I know it's from the books, but the commentary involved in that idea that some people don't have brains, some people don't have a heart, some people don't have courage. There's an awful lot of commentary, especially when you consider that we've been going through the Great Depression. We are almost ready to go into World War II. We're 2 years away from that. Imagine the commentary that's being said at that point on a national, worldwide scale in this harmless family film.
Well, I want to bring that up a little bit too, because one thing I did notice, and again, this is probably just a sign of the times, is that they code the lion very much as either gay or cowardly because he might be a homosexual. Like it's like he talks about not being a dandy, and it's just the way they treat courage in the movie seems to be against homosexuality. And like I say, it could just be a read into the movie with these eyes from this
When
century,
you,
but
I'm gonna agree with you to a certain extent. When you consider too, after he gets his makeover in Oz, you see all the
yeah,
ribbons and the curls that he
and
gets.
he got
I
a
could go
permanent
with you
for
on
it.
that.
Yeah.
I would go with you on that, except when I think back to even like 18th or 17th century England, that whole look was very common for
That's
men
fair.
to wear. So I could see it, but I don't try and read too much into
Yeah.
it. But I could definitely agree
It's
with you.
just something that stuck out to me now, and it just maybe because everybody is talking about it nowadays, right? Like looking back at previous films and seeing like were they trying to say something that just that slips through or something like that, right? And it might not be the best way to look at things, but it popped out to me a little bit, and I just thought it was interesting and worth mentioning at least.
Yeah,
But
no, and I understand.
mhm.
Um, and it's just this film flows so well.
Yes.
It really does. It doesn't feel slow.
No.
It doesn't feel purposeless. Everything about this is like when you want to show your kids a film, this is probably one of the first you would consider to show them as a family. I I, I have a hard time saying a lot of things about this film because how good it is. We will
Mhm.
go all night if we just talk about all the things we love about this film because there is. It it is darn near a perfect film. It really is.
Mhm.
Made in being in 1939, I'm so amazed what they put out and the scale we're talking here. Now granted, again, some of the post production or the behind the scenes stuff is real
Well,
sketchy. Margaret
I
Hamill,
want to bring up one more thing because we're right
go
at
ahead.
kind of at the where we are in the movie anyway. So when they get out of the forest, when they're all together, the Wicked Witch like sends them puppies to like kind of lull them to sleep. And the fact that like they were plying the actors with drugs and then gave them basically opium, gave the characters in the story basically opium to fall asleep. People in the 30s knew what poppies and knew what opium were and kind of did. So I think that
Yeah.
was kind of a good like a weird kind of like connection. And then the fact that the snow was asbestos, like looking that up
Yes.
and being like, holy shit, so much cancer, so much cancer.
No reported cases from all of that, but still, nonetheless. Um, yeah, there was even an urban myth which has been now proven wrong, but for years
Oh, is
persisted.
this the
And it
Munchkin?
wasn't. Yes, it's the Munchkin, and not until VHS did this get discovered. It was believed during the end of the Scarecrow sequence, or no, Tin Man, end of the Tin Man sequence,
Was when they're
that in the back
dark
of the
woods.
woods, you would see an image of something hanging, something moves real fast, and it dangles. And now this wasn't discovered until the advent of VHS, where people could pause and rewind. And people thought this was a Munchkin that hung himself behind the scenes, and they missed it. Now, what has happened since is thanks to 4K and high definition and all of this. When you pause it, you can clearly see that it's actually a small ostrich
It's a bird. Yeah.
or a bird,
Yeah, it's a bird.
basically. It could have been a peacock, but they said ostrich.
They
I
they
would buy
basically
it.
let loose a shit ton of birds in the studio so that they could have birds flying around the set.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like all the drugs that everybody was on this set. Like this is a great idea.
Yeah, but that's been a long urban myth about that
Yeah.
film. Is
I think
that
that's also interesting because that brings up another thing where it's like I noticed coming into Oz, like maybe it's because like if they were going for more storybook look, the matte paintings work better. But like the tracking shot into Oz, matte paintings don't work if you track around it and you kind of lose the perspective that you painted it at. And I thought it looked for a lot of it unfortunately looked like they were filming on a set. Like I could again, maybe that's the unfortunate thing of watching it in 4K. Cause like on a VHS, on a CRT TV growing up, when I watched it, that probably blended into the background a lot better. That's like how video game pixel art blended together to create smoother, kind of softer lines. And when you blow it up on a high def TV nowadays, you get these square, jagged lines. It's like that's not exactly what it looked like with the technology that we grew up with. So it's like maybe watching it in super high def is actually kind of a slight detriment. Like who knows? Like that could be it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one of the other things too that bothered me, which PETA would throw a fit today, is the horse of many colors.
Oh.
So the horse of many colors in Oz is a horse that changes colors as it goes along, and every time the shot changes, the horse is a different color. The way they accomplish this is rerunning the scene over and over and over again in filming, but they would cover it basically with Kool-Aid.
Jello. Yeah, I read Jello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colored, yeah. I guarantee you PETA would not.
Well, I mean, like, how about the lion costume? The lion costume was like an actual lion. It was like looking at that and looking at the costume, I'm like, wow, that's a weird, great costume. Like, it's super, like, kind of weird.
There's a thing about the lion's costume which always bugged me as a kid because I noticed it, and I get it. 1939, I remember that, but when he's singing "If I Were the King of the Forest,"
yeah,
when you watch his tail, you clearly see the wire running behind him back and forth as his tail's running.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little thing, but I noticed it as a kid. It kind of takes you out a little bit.
Yeah, well,
again, 1939. We have to put really that in. But I think visually, the thing that probably scared kids the most besides the witch was the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
The wizard effect, so good. I mean, this kind of disembodied giant green head and his kind of translucent, kind of not, and fires going everywhere. And mind you,
bellowing.
This is not done in miniature. This kind of thing would have been done in a bigger set. The head on of the wizard would have been done, small special effects in that way. But all that fire, all that flame and stuff, all that was going on right there in front of the actors. I mean, imagine being there during that time. How scary that is. And then being a kid and watching that. Was that scary for you when you were a kid?
I honestly couldn't. The problem with asking me if anything was scary as a kid is what some of my introductions to film include, like Cujo. So like I've been fucked from the beginning. So like like scary to me is like Final Destination 3 stopped me from going on roller coasters for like 5 years, but that's about it. Like it takes quite a bit to scare. I was fascinated. I could definitely say I was fascinated by it, but I don't know if I could say that I was scared for sure.
Yeah.
I can see why it'd be scary though, definitely.
So the Wicked Witch basically throws an ultimatum, give me Dorothy. I want Dorothy, or else kind of thing. So that's, when it's determined by the wizard, gotta kill the witch. So they go off into the woods, and this is hilarious to me because another thing I never noticed. They go into the woods, and Tin Man's got his axe. I believe, this lion's carrying poison. Is it poison?
You think they gave him poison, maybe?
I think it's poison. But the one thing I never noticed as a kid is that the Scarecrow's carrying a gun.
Yeah, they gave,
Scarecrow's got a gun. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. How did I miss this when I was a kid? And they fail. Dorothy gets captured, and they've got to sneak in, and they disguise themselves as Winky soldiers. They disguise themselves and get in and manage to free Dorothy. And then comes the escape. They try to escape from everything, and once again, the witch, she likes to tease the Scarecrow a lot, I gotta say. How about a little fire, Scarecrow? She lights her brooms on fire from a lantern when she's got them all cornered, and she's gonna set the Scarecrow on fire first. And Dorothy, trying to protect her friend, is no, and she grabs a bucket of water.
Just sitting there.
She goes to put out the fire, but she hits Margaret Hamilton, and that's I melting! Oh, what a world! And she melts right then and there. And then the Winkies, Let me tell you, if I had an army, I would not want the Winky army, because the Winkies turn like that.
Thanks.
The Winkies are like, you killed the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh, hail Dorothy! You traitorous sons of
That's like the
God.
Munchkins. The Munchkins. Oh, you killed the Wicked Witch of the East? Oh yeah, all hail Dorothy.
So she takes it back to the wizard, and the wizard says, come back next week.
Yeah.
Come back next week. No, we want it now. And then Toto gets over to near the curtain and starts to pull it aside, and we get the pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And we find out that the wizard is actually a man from Nebraska?
Kansas. No, he's from Kansas too. He's from Kansas. He says he's a Kansas man.
He's a Midwest.
One of my favorite like line reads probably in all of cinema is when he's revealed and he's like, I am the great and powerful Oz. Like he backs away, like the way he backs away and the way his voice like deflates and stuff. Like
he also has the most roles in this film because he plays the wizard, he plays the professor, he plays the doorman, he plays the
carriage driver,
horse carriage driver. He plays the doorman's doorman on the inside. And this guy's everywhere. And he's working it. He is working. What is his name? I need to give him.
His name is Frank Morgan.
Frank Morgan. Thank you, Frank Morgan, for being awesome. Second build under Judy Garland, and it shows. Yeah, he puts his effort into it. But then she basically he says, I'm a fraud. But you know what? I'll give your friends gifts anyway, and I'll see what I can do. And so he says, listen, I've got a balloon. I'll take you home. We'll go in the balloon. We'll go home. I call bullshit, but whatever. So he gives the Scarecrow brains, but we realize the Scarecrow already had brains. He just didn't have the belief in himself.
Throughout the whole movie, they just and that's the thing. Watching it again when you're older and you're like actually able to like appreciate movies for more than just like this is like a piece of entertainment, right? It's like they proved the entire movie that they each had what they were wanting. It's they never believed in themselves. That was the one thing. They just never had any validation, basically.
Although I'll tell you, to consider how overall uneducated most people were in 1939, there's a point. The wizard gives Scarecrow his brains, which is a diploma, and the Scarecrow begins to quote Pythagorean's theorem, but he quotes it wrong. And as a math geek as a kid, I was like, what? And then I watched The Simpsons, and The Simpsons made fun of it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved that. So it's a little thing, but it's hilarious in that. But yeah, it really is this realization that they already had these elements inside of them. They just needed to believe in themselves, and I like that. I love that. And it's the same thing with Dorothy. Yeah. Dorothy needed to believe in herself. Except, wait a second. Dorothy still needs freaking magic to get home. Dorothy.
In pops Glinda.
The wizard. By Glinda. Glinda comes in. She's like, you had the ability all the time, which again, hitting that metaphor that we have it within ourselves, but then why did you make the ruby slippers such a big deal? But yeah, if she clicks her heels 3 times and says there's no place like home, she'll go home, which she does. And then the film ends, and then the famous, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. But it's her realization that she was always home in her heart. And that's what it was all about. And again, this overall thing, it vaguely resembles the book. I'll say that it does. It vaguely resembles the book, but it's so charming and it's so memorable. And it's got so much allure to it that I can't knock it. Besides its behind the scenes stuff, the product they give us on film, it's classic.
It's one of the, I think it's one of the best adaptations, like what a proper adaptation can do, right? Like it is, like I said, we're talking about the original stories are more of the actual like Grimm fairy tale, like Brothers Grimm fairy tale. Like there's stakes and we'll see that in a couple of minutes here. There's stakes and there's scariness and there's like loss and there's stuff like that. Whereas this one is more of a Disney movie. Like this fits kind of, and it's weird that Disney made Return to Oz.
The thing with Dorothy is that she's not like the chosen one. It's not like she's got this destiny. I just want to get home.
Yep.
That's all she's trying to do the entire way. She didn't go out to kill the wicked witches. She didn't. That wasn't what she was there. She was not there to save Oz or the Munchkins or the Winked. She wasn't there to do that. This is just a girl trying to find her way.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that in a way we're going to see a little bit of in this next film too.
Mm-hmm.
Is this idea of it's not about Dorothy the chosen one, but everyone else treats her that way.
Yeah.
All the villains are like, no, we got to stop you. And there are other simpler ways we could deal with Dorothy. But yeah, it's charming. It's beautiful. It deserves to be as high as it is in the lexicon of pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, 100%. But that leads us to Return to Oz. So Return to Oz was filmed almost 50 years later. Almost 50 years.
Crazy.
1985. So while The Wizard of Oz, for the most part, though it has its scary moments with the Wicked Witch and
Monkeys,
the Wizard,
yeah.
and the monkeys, it's not the most scariest thing in the world. It's very G-rated. It's very family friendly. This film tries to go in a completely different direction with it and really embraces the strangeness and darkness of the written material.
Mm-hmm.
So to put this in perspective, this was done by Walt Disney, not by MGM. MGM did the original, Walt Disney did this. Although they did pay a very large sum to use the ruby slippers, not the actual ones, but the idea of the ruby slippers, because that was an MGM creation.
Yeah.
This film is very, very, very dark. So dark.
But it's so light at the same time. It's all like you'd almost say it's got a tone problem, but I don't know. I think it rides the line perfectly for me.
It really. Okay, so this one I have to give plot to a lot of plot.
Yes, we'll go through this one because this one.
So it takes place right after Dorothy's return. They're rebuilding their home after the tornado. And Dorothy is with Toto, of course, and her chicken, Belina. She has a chicken. No, that's cool. Got a chicken named Belina. That's cool. All right. So she's with the chicken. And she keeps talking about Oz and her trip to Oz and the friends she meets. And Annie M and her uncle are freaking out a little bit. So Annie M decides to take her into the town to a doctor to talk to the doctor. But we find out that this doctor is and this is interesting. The doctor, the movie takes place in 1899, the turn of the 20th century. That kind of plays an interesting turn here because this is also a turn in tone. This is not the light, happy Wizard of Oz that we knew.
Yeah.
This is a change for the world. The world is a darker place. The stories and everything we see were not as nice and frilly as we thought they were. And so I really like that they make an emphasis in here on this turn to the 20th century. And the film is really that turn as well. It is done around the same time that films like Labyrinth, The Dark Crystal, these very dark fantasy films are being done. And it follows in that same exact tone. In fact, most of the effects in the film are done by Henson Productions.
No way. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's Henson Productions.
Yeah.
In fact, Jack the Pumpkinhead.
Jack Skellington, you mean?
Brian Henson. Jack the Pumpkinhead. He is Brian Henson.
Oh shit!
It is Brian Henson.
Oh wow!
He's a puppeteer for that.
Mom?
And the voice.
Mom.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
So they send her to this doctor's place where we meet the doctor and the nurse and the orderly. Now these three characters follow the same lines that the Wizard and Elmira Gulch did, and that they multicast.
Yeah.
So in this film, the visuals and the audio are even better. I argue this is not a musical. This is not a musical.
Is there not one song? There's not one song in this, is there? I didn't think there was. Yeah, I didn't think I heard a single one.
So we're introduced to. I'm going to start with the orderly, since when we get to Oz, the order. Yeah. So the orderly wheels around a very creaky bed.
Yeah.
It's a wheeled bed that they use to transport
Stretcher,
patients.
yeah.
And it's that sound is grinding wheels, and it's very distinct to Dorothy, who pays attention to that. She hears that. Eventually, we meet the nurse, who is also kind of the head mistress of the area. She's not the doctor, but she's kind of in
Nurse
charge
Ratchet,
of it.
yeah.
She's nurse. Yeah, boy, is she.
I was gonna say this is like clearly Walter Murch watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and it's like Wizard of Oz.
Her and the doctor have a plan to use electricity to the temple to get rid of these errant electrical
dreams.
pulses that he does. The dreams. So that way she'll be normal. Basically, you gonna fry her brain is what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets a little bit of sleep, but she's scared because she keeps hearing the wheels of the orderly
and people like screaming.
Yeah,
this movie's fucked up.
So she's strapped to a gurney and is pulled into the room. It's put on her head, but then lightning hits the building and the power goes out. Oh, that's the other thing too. The machine looks like a face. It looks like
the doctor like is trying to explain to her why she shouldn't be scared of getting her brain fried with electricity by like showing her that this machine has got eyes, it's got a nose, it's got a mouth, it's got a little tongue that he moves back and forth.
It plays into her going to Oz so beautifully in this. The power goes out, and they go to figure out what happens, and a little girl comes in and tries to save her. Now, we don't know who this little girl is, but she pulls her out, and they manage to escape from the hospital, but then the doctor and everyone figure it out, and they go chasing after her. They make it down to the river, and she falls and stumbles into the river by herself, and she's hanging on to a chicken coop.
Yeah.
Which just so happens to have her chicken Bellina in it.
Yeah.
But she knocks her head, and when she wakes up, she's inside the chicken coop, and it's over the desert of despair or death.
Death. The desert of death. I do believe.
Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that we talk about later when we get to the Gnome King thing too. But Fairuza Balk did all her own stunts for this movie too. Like if we want to talk about another weird child endangerment probably shouldn't have happened type of thing on set, like having a kid do some of these stunts like in the river and the fall that she does in the mountain later on in the movie. It's like those are some pretty intense stunts to have kids do.
This desert is really cool because if you touch the floor of this desert, you will turn to sand and die.
So is this where the floor's lava came from?
Probably.
Like, is this where that game came from?
She has to hop across rocks to escape with Bellina, and she does. And she makes her way back towards...
Bellina can talk. Don't forget, this is very important now. We are in Oz, and now the chicken talks. And I was like...
remember, animals in Oz can talk.
I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know whether they're talking chicken. And then it's like, okay, this chicken is hilarious. It can talk all at once.
And here's the thing. Throughout this whole thing, we're introduced right at that as she's hopping along rocks. There's a rock that has a face on it, but she doesn't notice
Really
that.
Cool effects. I love the rock effects.
It's claymation, but it's done really well. And he goes back and we hear the voice of the Gnome King. And she says, Dorothy Gale, is it Dorothy Gale? And she's with a chicken. A chicken! Through the whole movie, they make this big deal about a chicken. No idea until the end what's up with chicken. So, she makes it to Munchkin Land and finds out everything is grown over and destroyed.
Mm-hmm. The Yellow Brick Road is destroyed. Yeah.
Yep, and she can't figure it out. So she runs and follows the Yellow Brick Road, what's left of it, to Oz. But again, the rocks report, she's following, and they say, she won't get past Mombi. The rock says that to the Gnome King. So they get back to Oz, and Oz is destroyed. All the emeralds have been taken away. It's no longer the Emerald City. It's the ruins of its former self.
The people have been Medusa'd.
People have been turned to stone. There's a series of like 9 statues in a circle with no heads. And she's like, what's going on here? It is creepy. And then, in the middle of everything, you start to hear... You hear the creaks of those wheels that she was listening to in there.
Oh,
And then
okay.
we're introduced to one of the scariest
Ew.
features in this film, the Wheelers.
God, those
The
things are
Wheelers
fucked up.
are played by the same guy who plays the orderly, and their wheels make the exact same sound that the
Shit.
gurney does. Like, it's perfect. And the design of these guys are awesome.
Oh.
Their hands are attached to a front wheel, and their two legs are wheels too. And that's how they get around. That's why they're called the Wheelers. But they have this hat that when they put their head down, it looks like a really scary, like, golem face.
Reminds me of like Majora's Mask or something, like something from Zelda.
And it freaks out Dorothy. It freaks her out.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot. She in what got her started in the thinking of Oz again is she found a key in Kansas that said Oz on it.
Yeah.
And she had this key.
And she wouldn't stop. That's why her aunt said, like, she's like, this is Oz. This is Oz. See, they're real. And then the aunt's like, okay, we got to shock your brain now. So, and then that's what starts the movie.
So the Wheelers managed to pin her against a wall, and they're going to get her. And she sees a keyhole in this stone wall. She puts the key in and goes inside and is introduced to TikTok, a new character. TikTok is a former soldier of Oz, but he is entirely mechanical. But in order to make him run, he's not alive. He is a robot.
He makes that perfectly clear, and he makes it very happy. Like, I love how happy he is. Like, I've never been alive, and I love it because I never have to die. It's like, man, I love this guy.
So for him to work, you have to turn 3 keys separately. One controls his thought, one controls his movement, and one controls his speech?
I think it's his talking. Yeah.
It's talking.
Yeah.
So what happens though is either his brain or his movement wear out first, which again, that commentary that we get exists here. There's a point where she says, sometimes people talk without using their brains. And I'm like, oh, I love what you did there. Good job. But she winds them all up, and he agrees to protect her, and he's very friendly. And
he was left by the King of Oz, the new King of Oz, the Scarecrow. I was like, oh,
Scarecrow.
really? Wow.
But we find out that the Scarecrow was taken. That's the other thing. She found a stone statues of the Lion and the Tin Man.
Yes.
By the way, in this movie, Tin Man
don't look like the 39 versions, but
it can't because of copyright.
But they look almost exactly like the original illustrations from the original Bond things, which are cool.
Once by the end of the film, when Tin Man works, it's Deep Roy.
Oh, really?
Tin Man is Deep Roy. I didn't know that. I thought that was a little thing. That was cool. But yeah. Anyway, so they head over to these towers where Mombi is, because they hear that Mombi might have some information for them. It's interesting. So they meet Mombi, and she's this beautiful woman who's playing a harp or what was it? No, it's a sitar or no. Anyway, mandolin. That's what it is. It's a mandolin, musical instrument. She's playing it, and she realizes who Dorothy is. You're Dorothy Gale. Oh. And she takes Dorothy into this hallway, and we see a row of heads. There are heads of women, beautiful women. And Mombi basically takes off her head, places it on a pedestal, and then we'll take another one, same as we would replace a hat or a wig. Mm-hmm. Whoa. And it's freaky, let me tell you. She chains Dorothy up because in the tower. Well, doesn't chain her, but locks her up in the tower because she says she's beautiful and will grow up to be. She's not. What did she say? She's not beautiful, but she's cute. I think it's what she said.
Well, and I think that was a commentary on Judy Garland, maybe, because reading up on the history of just Judy is the fact that she had lots of image issues in the studio system because they felt she wasn't womanly enough. She was too cute. She wasn't like the starlet that they wanted, that's interesting.
Yeah, but she locks her up in there. Unfortunately, TikTok runs out of movement. He's not able to move anymore, so he's stuck in her kind of throne room, and she's trapped up there with Bellina. And they realize that excuse me, there's a pumpkin head. That's another thing. She was given a pumpkin by this little girl when she first arrived in the room. It's just a little jack-o'-lantern,
Mhm.
and she put it in her room. That, again, becomes something else later. It becomes Jack the Pumpkinhead. He was brought to life by Mombi years ago, but was locked up there. And so he tells her that Mombi, along with her original head, has something called the powder of life, which can bring anything to life. Cool. So they're looking around, and there's all these this furniture and antiques and stuff, and then the head of what's called a gump. And so they create this creature and tie
Oh
it
my
to the
god.
bed. And
It's my
they
favorite thing. This is might be my favorite thing in any movie ever is the
gump,
gump.
the gump.
Oh my god. Just
So she
the willingness of this thing to just die. Like it just wants to die. It's like I shouldn't be alive. I shouldn't exist. Can I please like stop existing now?
it goes down. Dorothy sneaks downstairs, steal the key to the cabinet, steals the powder, but wakes up all the heads. And this again is another really scary moment for kids, where all you hear is this eerie Dorothy Gale! And all of a sudden all the heads just start Dorothy Gale! It's really scary. And then the music they've got going on with it's creepy. She manages to escape with the help of the little girl. The little girl is in a mirror.
Yeah.
And it's guiding her. So she manages to make her way up, uses the powder on the gump, and the gump comes to life, at least his head, but the rest of his body is now a couch and
ferns
like
for
a
wings.
feather fan and
Yeah.
straw for wings. Yeah. And Mombi's trying to chase after her, and they manage to escape out the window, and the gump flies them straight to the mountain of the Gnome King,
Because he
where she
doesn't think he
knows
can turn.
because he can't turn, right?
I love it. It's like, can you please go straight to the mountain? It's like, okay, I don't think I can turn. It's like it's like Eeyore. It's kind of like Eeyore.
Now Mombi is working for Gnome King. She is working for him.
Yeah.
So she works her way there. Mombi and the Wheelers follow shortly after to go warn the Gnome King what's happening. They land on the mountain of the Gnome King. And mind you, they're being watched. They're the whole time, every time there's a rock, they're being watched. Bellina hides inside of Jack, which was a smart thing, because they all fall down. They are attacked, and Gump, the Gump can't fly, so they make it down and they crash land on the mountain, but they survive. And everybody's there but Bellina. Now the rock monster does, or the Gnome King and the rocks don't know Bellina's inside Jack, which is important. It's very important. So the Gnome King opens up basically a chasm and sucks them all down, and he's talking to her, to Dorothy. And Dorothy, says, "Why did you steal all the emeralds?" And he's like, "I took them from the King of Oz." He's like, "But he didn't even know. He didn't do anything to you." He's like, "They all knew. They were mine." And he took them all back. And I'm like, you kind of make an interesting point when you talk about colonialism and you talk about the robbing of riches and raping and plundering like that. The Gnome King kind of makes a point here. They were mine first. They were mine, and y'all took them from me.
But
I don't care what he has.
But Dorothy has a good point too. It's like you have so many. Like that's the thing. Is like here, like watch it. Communism coming in strong. It's like you have so many. It's like you could share and still have a lot. It's like.
But he takes her down, and then we are met with the throne room of the Gnome King, who is at first is just claymation.
Yeah.
This is something that I really like. This is a transition that is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
So she says, "I want Scarecrow back." And he says, "I can't do that. I turned him into an ornament, a knick-knack, a bric-a-brac." And he says, "But you know what? Here's what we'll do. We'll play a game. I'll let you each go into my ornament room one at a time, and I'll give you 3 guesses. All you have to do is pick up an item, say the word Oz, and if it's Scarecrow, you can have him back. But if you guess incorrectly 3 times, you will become an ornament. Now, here's the fun thing. This is what I really like. So they begin to go in one at a time. And as they do, Gnome King is talking to Dorothy. And as each one begins to fail and is turned into an ornament, which we don't see on screen until a final one later, he begins to become more human.
Mm-hmm.
His first thing we see is his eyes. His eyes are human eyes. Like, that is really cool. And he transforms periodically into what is so close to a human. And I absolutely love this man. The guy that plays the Gnome
Nicol
King.
Williamson. Yeah.
Yes. Now, if you don't recognize, he also plays the Doctor in this. Yeah. He's the Doctor. But if you don't recognize him, maybe you've seen Spawn. And he's the Spawn's trainer.
Coglistroro. I can't.
Coglistroma. I think it's like Coglistroma. Anyway, that was one of the last roles he ever played. Cogliostro.
Cogliostro. There we go. That's how you say it. That's how you say words.
I love this guy. He plays it. But he talks to Dorothy so civilly. He offers her refreshment, and they have a conversation, and it's amazing. So everybody goes in piece by piece. Jack goes in, they fail. Then Gump goes in, and he fails. Then TikTok goes in. And Dorothy and him are talking. And now at this point, he's very much looking human.
Mm-hmm.
They report and say TikTok stopped in the middle of the room. He's not picking. And she goes, "Oh, his movement turn must have stopped." And he says, "Okay, tell you what, why don't you go in, wind him up, let him pick, and then you could already be in there to pick." Okay, so she goes inside. She's nervous about it too, but she goes inside. And once she goes inside, the door closes behind her. Then Mombi comes. Mombi comes through a secret tunnel and gets there and tries to warn her Dorothy's coming. And he's like, "You're a moron for letting her escape. Hold on." Basically snaps his fingers, and she's stuck in a cage. Mombi's trapped in a cage. Because that's not going to play later on. Not at all. But Dorothy goes into the room. She finds TikTok. And she notices that he's fully wound up. And she's like, "What's going on?" And he stands very still quietly. He's like, "I needed you in here.
I have a plan.
I'm going to pick one more item. And if you can see what I turn into, maybe that'll give you a clue as to what the Scarecrow will be." Aha. So he picks up an item, but he disappears. He does the Oz thing and he disappears. So Dorothy tries the first two and she fails. She can't figure it out what's going on, and she's looking around and she notices on a table a green crystal diamond. It's green, like emerald green. And that's when she realizes emeralds, green, the people of Oz. So she has enough faith. She grabs it, goes, "Oz!" And sure enough, it's Scarecrow, which pisses Gnome King off to no end. And that's when they figure it out, that anything that is green is a citizen of Oz. So they start looking and they find everyone except TikTok. And they manage, what happens is that everything starts crashing down around them. And then Gnome King gets into his evil kind of rock, monster form and claymation. And he says, "You know what? Screw this. I'm just going to eat you all." And he grabs Jack. Now remember, Bellina's in hiding in Jack. She gets so scared that she lays an egg that she's been trying to lay kind of throughout the film.
Dorothy was looking for her egg at the very beginning. Yeah, she's like, "Where's your egg, Bellina?" Yeah.
Yeah. And the egg falls into the gnome, and the gnome's like, "Was that an egg? Eggs are poison!" And it kills him. So tell me that isn't the Wicked Witch of the West all over again. Tell me it isn't.
Oh yeah. I don't understand eggs. How an egg? Yeah. Anyway, they set it up. They set it up that it's fine. Like I'm fine with it because it's like, oh, the chicken, blah blah. Why a chicken? Because they wanted talking chicken in the movie. It's like, it's not the biggest. It's a kids movie.
So, the one other thing too, right before she went in, this is kind of important. The Gnome King we discover had the ruby slippers.
Yes.
When she went back, the ruby slippers fell from the sky, and he took them, and he's wearing them.
That's
And he
what
says,
gave him all this power.
Here's the deal: if you quit all of this and leave right now, I have the power to send you home. I will send you home, no problem. But she doesn't do that. But he fails. She gets the ruby slippers, puts them on, gathers everybody together, and says, "I wish for you to take us back to Oz, and for Oz to be restored the way it was." Poof! She's back in Oz. Emerald City's restored. All the statues are returned back to normal. Everyone's fine, except one. TikTok's not there. What's going on? Where's TikTok? They can't find TikTok. And then they look on Gump's antler, and there's an ornament hanging on Gump's antler, and they grab it and go, Oz, and it's TikTok. And so what they find at that point is that they're brought back in front of everybody with Scarecrow, and she saved the day again. And they have Mombi caged and trapped. But in the mirror is this young lady, and we find out that that's Princess Ozma, who was the rightful heir to the throne, but was put into the mirror by Mombi.
Before the Wizard of Oz. Before the Wizard of Oz himself came to Oz, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And she is the actual mom to Jack, who, like, this is the thing we haven't brought up, but like I love the fact that like early on Jack's like, "Are you my mom?" She's like, "No." And it's like, "Can I call you mom anyway?" She's like, "I guess you can do that." And like throughout the whole movie, he just calls Dorothy mom. And it's kind of weird, but it's like funny at the same time. And then he sees his real mom and like faints in the crowd.
But Ozma grants, her the ability to go home as one would, and she does. And she goes back home, and again she was found in the river, and we're so sorry, and I hope you're okay, and all of these things happen. But Bellina chose to stay behind. Bellina the chicken chose to stay in Oz. She goes back, and she was told that she would always be looked on in from time to time by Ozma. And when she gets back, she looks in the mirror and says Ozma, and she was going to say something, but Ozma's like, shh. Which we don't see that ever again, Labyrinth. Labyrinth. But and that kind of ends the film here. And it's a very dark film in tone. All the sounds that you hear, the music that you hear, there's nothing really breaking this up except for Dorothy herself. Dorothy is the hope of this movie that we needed we got in the first one, but the music kind of helps to carry that. They really do. And that friendship, this does in a very much darker environment, in harrowing circumstances, and she survives, and she makes it through it. And it's amazing to me. And actually, this is one of the funny things I love. When she gets back to when she gets back to the real world, the nurse has been taken by the police when the police find out what they've been doing, and she's in a cage. She's already in a cage. So this is something that's interesting to me. I have always loved the debate of whether everything that has happened was in Dorothy's head or not. Now, reading all of the books, I have to say no. But if I were to look at just these two movies, if I were to look at the first one, was it just in her mind? I think there's enough evidence to support that.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100% enough evidence to support that this was a bump on her head. She survived a tornado. People have done it, and she was found and saved. Same thing here. She got a bump on her head, was probably saved by a fellow inmate, and was found. But all of these things that she's experiencing, she experienced previously. And maybe in a delusion, she saw, the nurse get put into, the point is, I think there's enough evidence to validate the idea that all of these things are in her head, even possibly Ozma in the mirror.
That's the only thing where it's like, maybe not, right? Like, I mean, schizophrenia, you can see things, but like it's just like maybe not, but if everything but Ozma in the mirror, I would say 100% it's in her head. Like the movie like thinks it's in her head. Like this is a metaphor for going through growing up, right? It's just metaphor for growing up in different ways and learning life lessons. So it's like I can see that. But with the mirror, it's like, it could be real.
It's really interesting to me too that this is a Disney film. That really fascinates me because Disney, you think bright, happy. This is also the same time that the Black Cauldron comes out.
Yeah,
And Black
that's one of my
Cauldron
favorites.
was rated PG, something that had never been done for an animated film. It was the first animated film to do that because it was considered darker. And the 80s, really, the mid 80s especially, were a darker time for film. And especially, it's interesting with these Henson films.
I was gonna say Labyrinth is the next year, 86.
Yeah, Labyrinth, and then well, you've got like I said, Dark Crystal.
Yeah, Dark
very
Crystal,
dark.
yeah.
These three films together, though specifically, this is not a Henson film. Henson's people worked on it.
Yeah.
All in this darkness, and I said it before, and I really feel that the reason why this gets the bad rap that it does is because it deviates so much in style and form from the original 39.
Yeah.
We have such a stranglehold on the 39 and will not let it go as the absolute definitive edition that this really gets the bum rap. And I also argue that we got the same thing with the James Franco movie.
I love Oz the Great and Powerful. That's another one we might have to do sometime later.
There are problems in that we could talk about in another day film.
But I thought it was very fun.
I thought it was fun, but again, I still think that we hold a candle always for 39.
Yeah.
And these other films just aren't going to get that chance because people don't want to think that there could be something better or another way to tell the story.
Well, I wonder if nowadays that's something different. Like, I wonder if like it could get another, like, it has a cult following as is, but if it can get like another resurgence because of things like Halloween, like they just took Halloween and Halloween 2 or Halloween and just said, okay, no, this is now Halloween 2. Ignore the rest of those movies. Those movies didn't exist and those movies didn't happen. It's like, it's just these movies now. So it's like, that's kind of like, we're taking our own spin on a sequel. And I think that is more accepted nowadays than maybe back in the 80s when you're tackling the classic Wizard of Oz, right?
This, it doesn't deserve the rotten rating.
No.
It does.
No.
Absolutely does not.
First time seeing it, and I was like, the only thing I could think of watching the whole thing is like, how come I didn't watch this nonstop as a kid? Like, I would have watched Wizard of Oz and this back to back nonstop as a kid.
The main reason why it wasn't out was very simply that candle to 39. Mm-hmm. People were like, oh no. I didn't discover it, I don't think, until VHS.
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing on that because I remember watching it. I remember my parents showing it to me, and I still, even as a kid, going, "This is weird. This is strange." Like, again, 39 is that candle. You know, this isn't 39. But watching it again as I get older and older and older, and watching it more and more, I realize there's a lot of great ideas here, and a lot of things that it carries over from Oz, from Wizard of Oz. That's really good.
Well, and
there's some really good stuff here.
Fairytale, Balk, like, acting as young as she was, is like, she's Judy Level Garland acting in this movie. Like, she is great in this movie. She literally carries this movie the entire time, and she's amazing in it.
She's just adorable in this, and she's got the innocence and the gingham dress again and the pigtails, and this is what Dorothy is supposed to be. Not to knock Judy Garland, because Judy Garland had the innocence. She just didn't look young.
Well, no, I always thought, like, reading that she was supposed to be prepubescent, Dorothy is supposed to be prepubescent, is weird because I always thought of her as 14, like 13, 14, 15. Like, that was always the age that she was in my mind. Like, she was never like a young girl. She was a teenager always. Just the way which she acted in the original movie and the way she looked. Like, it didn't fool me into thinking she was like 10. But Fairytale Balk, she was like actually 11 or 12, and she was smaller, right? So
but the sad thing too is when you go to look for this thing on Blu-ray or DVD, you can't. It's in such limited quantities. I learned this. because we had to order it direct when we originally bought it because my wife loved it, and
Yeah.
I remembered, oh yeah, I like that film. We had to buy it directly from Disney, and that's the
Wow.
only way right now on Blu-ray you can get this puppy.
Really?
Yeah. You can down. I mean, you could download it. You can get it digitally now, but if you want a
You
physical
can
copy,
find
you
it
have to go straight
places.
through
Yeah.
Disney. Yeah, shh.
If
Don't encourage
no,
that.
no one's encouraging anything. I'm just saying you can find if you don't want to sell your movies, don't be scared. Don't be surprised when people don't buy them. Like sell your movies and
Anyway.
people will buy them.
But yeah, at the end of the day, this film deserves way better than a rotten rating, and it's not fair. I love the original. We said it. We have no qualms really with the original. It's beautiful the way it is, and always will be. We'll be showing it to our grandkids. I mean, I can't wait until 2039, if we all live that long, to watch the 100th anniversary of this. I really can't. I'm excited for that. You know, who?
It's actually pretty close too. Yeah,
like.
It's only like 20 years
we're
away.
getting there.
Yeah,
yeah, we're about 20 years, but it's within that range.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's on that. But you know, it's been a lot. There's been a lot going on, Kyle. And next week, I think I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
But I personally have I might have to go on a little bit of a secret mission.
A secret mission. Well,
I have a secret mission.
If we're gonna have a secret mission, I'm gonna need a new partner in here, and I think that Chris Doman, who joined us for our Star Trek episode, would be a great person to join us to talk some secret missions.
So your mission, should you choose to accept it, and no, we're not doing Mission Impossible. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to watch the seminal James Bond film. Maybe not the best James Bond film, but the best film about James Bond. Goldfinger.
Ooh.
Goldfinger.
Not GoldenEye?
Not GoldenEye. We're going to do Goldfinger. Goldfinger. So, I think you'll have a pretty good time with Doman on that.
And what could I possibly pair with that?
Well, I need another spy. We could go with Ethan Hunt. We could go with Jason Bourne.
All have had their rotten movies.
We've had that. We could do, Get Smart, or even the TV movie from Get Smart. But you know what? I'm going to dig a little bit deeper here. I'm talking 1990s, late 90s, early 2000s, a young man by the name of Frankie Muniz. That's right. We're taking a trip with Agent Cody Banks.
Frankie Muniz and Hilary Duff. Oh man, this was I think I still have my original DVD for this one. This one was on repeat a lot. I may or may not have had a huge crush on Hilary Duff growing up, so this was just like on the repeat on the TV. So
let's see how the decades handle spy films.
Yeah, we'll see. I do have, if you want to vamp for like 2 seconds, I have a giveaway for our audience this week, actually.
Oh, a giveaway. Ooh. See, now I didn't even know about this. I was not warned, but I'm excited about this. Giveaways are awesome. This is we really enjoy having you guys take a look at our work, and so this is our way of giving back to you, the fans, courtesy of Kyle. Kyle's quite an amazing and a giving guy, and so I'm looking forward to hearing about it. As I love Goldfinger, but I do have to take a week off, unfortunately. So
just telling everybody,
all right, Kyle,
you're taking a week off. Okay. For everybody here, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, you guys are going to get, the first person to see this in the YouTube stream is going to get the download code right there.
Why are you showing?
So please enjoy. The first person to enter that code gets
Isn't it expired?
No, it's perfectly fine. Should be good.
The survey closes.
Oh, that's a survey.
19.
We're going to turn it around, and now you can actually get the code for The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
What if I want? All right, so the first person to take advantage of that, you get it. Comment, and please do comment in the YouTube box that you got it. We would be very happy.
Yeah, give a comment if you just watched the show and you liked it, and you want us to review anything. Otherwise, we're just going to keep picking movies that we want to review unless you guys tell us what you want, right? So,
and just a heads up, when I come back, I want a heads up. I always like to do a heads up beyond that. as we go into these August months. Let's take a look. So after that, uh, you know, I love that we have sports back. I do, but it's not quite the same. So I thought we should also maybe take a look at some sports movies coming up. But we'll let them stew on that as to what sports movies we could be looking at.
We'll just say that maybe or maybe not the season for this sport could be over by the time we get to the get to these movies.
Two sports, we'll see.
Oh, I guess 2 sports. Yeah. There's there's one for sure that might be over by the time we get to this movie. But thank you everybody for joining us again today. Thank you, Chris, for talking with these 2 movies and introducing me to Return of Oz. Everybody, please like, share, subscribe, enjoy that digital copy, whoever gets it, and have a great day. Wear your mask. See you later.